The power of story. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I want to take the high road. I want to talk to you about the power of stories. Who gets to tell them, who shapes the systems we live in, and ultimately pays the price when those systems fail. This is not just a discussion about economics or policy. It is about the very fabric of our societies and the narratives that define us. And we don't write the narratives. Stories and system design. Who holds the pen? You see, stories matter. They matter because those who control the narrative also control how events are interpreted, who is blamed, and who is absolved. Throughout history, the people designing our global systems, be it economic, political, or social, have often been elite groups with the power and resources to shape outcomes in their favor. These systems are not accidental. They are carefully constructed, and more often than not, they are designed to benefit a select few while shifting blame and burden onto marginalized communities. The global reach of engineered systems. Let's look at the big picture. From Africa to America, from Europe to Asia, we see systems that exploit and extract, often without accountability. Consider the legacy of slavery, a system that commodified human beings and generated immense wealth for a few, leaving generational trauma for many. Or take modern extraction economies, where natural resources are pulled from the global south, often with little benefit to local populations and enormous profits for multinational elites. And let's not forget how they leave that country in deplorable conditions, but are not held to account. Banking systems provide another example. We are told banks are there to manage our money responsibly. But the reality is that banks invest our deposits for their own gain. If every account holder tried to withdraw their money at once, banks wouldn't be able to meet those demands. Similar to what happened in 21 or something like that, when the system crashed and people tried to get their money. The profits from these investments rarely trickle down to everyday people. Instead, the system is structured so that everyday people do not benefit from that. Instead, the system is structured so that the risk is socialized, shared by the public, while reward is privatized, going to the owners and shareholders. The housing market collapse, a case study in systematic scapegoating. One of the greatest schemes in recent history was the housing market collapse. Without diving too deeply into technical details, let's focus on the narrative. In the lead up to the crash, lending practices were manipulated. Prime loans, which carried lower interest rates and were supposedly for those with the best credit, were kept for a select group. Subprime loans created with higher interest rates and greater risks were aggressively marketed to people whose credit actually qualified them for better rates, often poor Europeans, Africans, Latinos, and other people of color, but they weren't given those. because there was a scheme in place. And this wasn't an accident. It was engineered, and the outcome was already written. See, the architects of these systems knew exactly what they were doing and who would bear the brunt of the fallout. When the collapse came, the government bailed out the financial institutions and elites responsible for the crisis, returned to their banks, laughing all the way with their wealth in hand, while everyday citizens, especially those from marginalized communities, were left to pick up the pieces and pay for the systemic scheme, housing scheme. Why does this happen? Because at a fundamental level, the architects of these systems view some groups as subprime, and by extension, subhuman. The system is rigged to fail for some. And when it does, the blame is shifted onto those very communities. So let's stop right here. Subprime, subhuman. Credit, prime and subprime. Failure credited to human, subhuman. What I mean by that is, marginalized communities don't get treated like human beings. And sometimes we mistreat the very people that are going through the very things that we are going through, because the narrative has been told that at any cost, you keep your foot on the neck of these people. Even when you suffer and are losing everything you have. That's the narrative. Who benefits from progressive programs? Even programs designed to address inequality, like civil rights DEI programs, have often been co-opted. These were intended to uplift Black people and people of color. The primary beneficiaries have sometimes been groups originally targeted, such as European women. This is not theory, it is a lived reality, confirmed by personal experience and conversation with those who benefited directly. See, this reminds me of the $5 Indian. You tried to kill them, take all their land and everything else, and you gave them treaties in which hopefully they would be able to live in peace until you found gold and oil on it, and then you found another way to steal more of their land and to kill more of their people. You see, we have to understand systemic systems. And this means that you have to have an unbiased analytical perspective, and the patterns are clear, be they financial, legal, or social, or they are not neutral. They are created, maintained, and justified through narrative. When those in power write the story, they can absolve themselves of responsibility, assign blame to those with the least power to resist. This is why it's crucial to examine who is behind the systems and whose voices are amplified or silenced. Globally, these patterns repeat. When exploitation is challenged, the narrative shifts, scapegoats are identified, the cycle continues. But the good news is that these stories can be reclaimed by sharing our experiences and exposing the mechanisms of these systems. We can begin to rewrite the narrative. Conclusion, reclaim the narrative. So, why do stories matter? Because they are the first battleground in the fight for justice. If we allow the same elites to tell our stories, then we'll continue to design systems that benefit themselves, leaving the rest of us to shoulder the blame and the burden. If we reclaim the narrative, we reclaim our power. Let us challenge the systems, question the narratives, and ensure that the next chapter is written by those who have often been written out.